This month we celebrate International Women's Day, and we are here to celebrate females in the workforce. But what support and programs are in place to help address the imbalance that continues to present itself, and how can experts encourage women to go into areas that are traditionally known as boys' clubs? IntoWork starts right now.
IntoWork, in association with IntoWork, the one-stop employment shop for all things work.
Hello and welcome back to IntoWork. I'm your host, Mike Loader. Now, International Women's Day takes place in March, and it's a day to celebrate the achievements of women and their contribution to the economy, politics, community, and in everyday life, of course, as well. It is also a day to highlight the challenges and work to address the barriers that still exist. Now, remembering whilst IntoWork is the sponsor of today's discussion, all the views and opinions are, of course, our own. I can welcome my guest today. Poul Botten is the Group CEO of IntoWork Australia, a leading national provider of services that support economic and social participation through employment, training, recruitment, and much more. Paul, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here.
Now, are we seeing a shift take place across the entire workforce? What have you guys seen over at IntoWork over the last decade or 15 years, I suppose?
It has been quite a significant shift, really, Mike. I think when we think back to 10, 15 years ago, compared to what it is now, I think we have a far more inclusive, balanced workforce starting to occur out there. You still have certain sectors which are dominated more by women or dominated more by men, but I think it's becoming more inclusive. Secondly, even across the board, where we've got people living with a disability, where we've got Indigenous people, I think workforces are starting to see that if you've got a balanced workforce, where you've got all sorts of different backgrounds, a more equal distribution amongst genders, both at leadership level and the workforce level, you're going to have a better workplace overall, and you'll have a far more effective company.
Well, so how is IntoWork looking to address that imbalance, I suppose, and a few of the things you've touched on just there? What options do women have specifically approaching IntoWork?
Well, look, we employ about 4,000 people ourselves directly. Now, whether that's our staff, whether it's our apprentices, trainees, whether it's people out in short-term placements, what we do is first of all, we set it up to make sure that we ourselves mirror what it is that we expect from the businesses out there. So how do we make sure we got balanced panels in terms of interviews, etc. Yep. How do we make sure that the ads that we're putting up are really reflective of welcoming diversity into the workforce? And then how do we create a workplace that is really inclusive of people so that people don't feel alienated or feel daunted when they come into the workplace? And that's the types of supports that we like to offer out there into the community. So if we're talking with businesses, we like to say, well, how are you setting up your business? Now, I think particularly when we look at the more traditional trades, as they call them, or non-traditional trades for women, there's a very small percentage of those people that are actually women in say the building construction trades, or even in some of the mining areas, etc. too. And I think some of the building construction trades like carpentry or electrical or plumbing, etc., it's probably only about 2 or 3%. There has been a growth over the past 10 years, which is good to see, but it's still probably only sitting at about 3% of that total workforce is actually women.
How can businesses get involved in relation to that?
Well, there's a whole range of different government incentives out there that help to employ people. Interestingly, both state and federal government at the moment are putting on new, new incentives, new types of arrangements to strongly encourage women to come into some of those more trade-based occupations. And so both supporting the individuals but also supporting the companies to take them on. So as I say, in a number of states across Australia, but also from a federal government perspective. So people can contact us or contact us through the IntoWork website or through 1399 Work, and we can make make connections for them about how to actually access those incentives.
Personalised connections, from what I understand, is the way we've spoken about IntoWork in the past. You guys really do your due diligence when it comes to working out the best spot for people to go. But that seems like a perfect time to bring in our guest for today. And over the page now, and we've got CEO of Tradeswomen, Janet Cribbers, and she's here to tell us about her organisation seeking to encourage and support women moving into trades. Janet, thanks for your time.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for asking me to come on, and good to be with you.
Janet, let's dive right in. What are some of the challenges that women still face with employment, especially in those non-traditional trades that Paul and I were discussing?
Like, you can break it down into three segments. One is that there isn't a whole lot of information around trades in schools for career choices. So girls in schools don't have, careers as an option. there's a whole perception around the workplace culture and the misconception around trades being unattractive. And then there's the kind of support, the structural support in workplaces that are male dominated, that are not conducive for either diversity or for women in particular. And there's that age old, the toilets are still an issue. So there's several issues that go to making workplaces not so conducive for women to take up a non-traditional trade.
Now, you must have seen some success stories through your time as the CEO of this company.
I know it sounds awful what I've just said, but there are success stories, and we do quite a lot of training in the diversity and inclusion space, in bystander training, in unconscious and conscious bias. So there are organisations. In fact, we're working with about 140 automotive organisations, who are going through the culture change, trying to prepare their work sites for being an inclusive place to work, and that's fantastic. Hats off to them. From our own kind of programs that we're running, we've had what we call pathways to trades, and one particular person stands out who really wanted to take up a career, and there was a whole lot of obstacles. But anyway, she came through the program, and before you know it, the pandemic hits, and everything comes to a halt, and then re-engaged, mentored, was put through. I think the mentoring is really important, and she now has an electrical engineering apprenticeship, which she'll be taking on, which is fantastic, and they're the kind of little wins. There's the structural bits, and then there's the personal stories where people who have had lots of challenges to actually even get into an apprenticeship or think about an apprenticeship, and bingo, a little bit of encouragement, and it works. It's great.
You've called it a little win, but I call that a massive win, especially for the person who's found that skill set. I think that's really, really exciting. But what about on the other side of things, and what advantages are there for businesses by getting involved with taking on more women in these traditional trades, I suppose?
I think that, just from our own experience, and from what we've been doing in the workplace, the feedback that's coming back to us is that workplaces they feel a lot safer. Workplaces are more conducive. Women in particular are really detailed, and so the precision increases. That kind of sense of people's behaviour and almost professionalism that comes with having women in the workplace makes it an all-round culture shift that feels more inclusive and feels a lot safer.
And that's what it's all about. Janet Cribbis, thank you so much for joining us on the program today and unpacking this issue a little bit further.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to, air some of this.
To our next guest now, and Leanne Rayner is the State Manager for MAS National, which is a part of IntoWork Australia, which launched The Collective, a program which provides professional development, networking events and mentoring for women. Leanne, welcome to the program and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks
First
for having
up,
me.
just tell us a little bit about The Collective, I suppose, just to start.
Yeah, well, I think traditionally women have had not had the same opportunities for networking in business as men have. So our fantastic State Manager in Tasmania, Kim Taylor, started a group maybe about 10 years ago, which was a smaller group, but it was about women networking together, and they would have lunch and they would talk to each other about what was happening in business and so on. That has now expanded to our collective Inspiring Women in Business organisation, I guess, or group, where we have expanded into South Australia in 2019 and then into Victoria and Queensland in 2020 and the rest of the states this year, hopefully. And basically what it is, as you say, it's professional development, personal development for people, and also that sort of networking and mentoring as well. We've had speakers present like Lee Russell, who presented on managing in high performance environments. We've had We've had Janet Cribbers and TWA have been supporters of the program.
Great.
We've had Kate Carnell, who's the Small Business Ombudsman. So it's all about people talking about professional development opportunities. And then we also include that networking as well, where women can talk to each other about what they what's going on in their world, what's going on in business, and so on as well. We also have, as part of Collective, Mentor Loop, so Collective Mentoring, which is an online mentoring program. So Lucy Lloyd supports that program, and we've had her sort of present to our group as well. So it's that online mentoring for women that we can connect with each other as well.
It sounds like a really robust system that you've got growing really rapidly, which is fantastic. How's the reception been for people who are coming along to these events or wanting to participate?
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and I think from going from 2020, where all our events were virtual in Victoria and the other states, to actually having our first face-to-face event last year, the buzz was amazing. We didn't stop talking, I don't think, for a couple of hours, but it's been really fantastic for everybody to be involved. And part of that, apart from the professional development, which people have professional development at any time really that they can sort of log into, we've got that networking where women are supporting women, inspiring each other, building each other up, and so on. And also that connection to that mentoring, as we say. Apart from all of that, so Maz runs the collective, and Maz is part of the Interwork group. And in addition to the ticket price which is reasonable anyway to come along to the event, we also support women's charities. So part of that ticket price that goes to women's charities, and so far we've raised over $36,000 for women's charities as well.
Incredible. That's fantastic. So if there is a young woman out there who might be looking to get involved or take part, or doesn't know where to start, what advice would you give to her?
Come along to the events. They're very popular. They've been selling out, which is great. But I think come along, talk to people that are there. It's always great to connect to people. We always talk about, connecting to each other. What's your next opportunity, or what can you do next? Who can support you? And I guess it's around sort of building that personal board of directors for people as well. They can actually log in online and do the mentoring online. They can do that without coming to an event, or come to the events, which are a lot of fun anyway, because you get that professional development and you get that face-to-face networking, which is really important.
It seems very proactive as well, which is great, because I know sometimes people can get a bit stuck in their careers and whatnot, and where's my next step? Thank you so much for joining me on today's program, Paul, Leanne. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
And to all of you out there in TV land, thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Loader, and be well, be safe, and I'll see you again soon. Be well.